Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Tether Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Bradley, and I'm joined, as per the usual, by my brother Joseph. Joseph, say hello.
Hey, what is up, people? We are here to break down some interesting news and some articles that are going to keep you tethered in this crazy mixed up world. You need to stay grounded, and we're going to help you do that.
There you go, man.
So how you doing, brother?
Dude, I'm doing well, and so we actually took off a week just because there was a crazy number of things in both of our lives going on, and we were like, let's just buy a week or take a bye week, I guess. So
that's it. But we were able to do a super deep dive on internet love, and I'm glad we're able to kick off today's show with the article that we are, because I think it's gonna have a massive impact for a number of people.
Yeah. So
if you know what I mean.
Yeah, dude, of course. So I'm sure that plenty of the listeners out there, and honestly, us included, Joseph and I included, have been in long distance relationships, and it's difficult, right?
Yep.
I was for a little bit, I was basically commuting to and from Memphis from Knoxville, which was a long ass drive, and I was doing that every other week, man, which was for pretty much a year. And I'm pretty sure, Joseph started going cross country, so he had to up the ante.
Yeah, I've been there, my dude, for sure. And it's tough, man. It's tough to keep up with. You miss the nuance in the relationship, right?
Yeah.
But here's the key question. What do you do for good loving, dude, when you're so far apart?
When you're so lonely.
When you're so lonely and you're just missing each other. What do you do? I mean, of course you've got dick pics, you've got, a wide variety of things you can do here, but the ante has been upped, and I remember this topic from damn near a decade ago, a little bit more than a decade ago, but it sounds like the ante has been upped, and that future generations that are have a hanker and have a longing, need those creature comforts from any sort of distance are going to be taken care of. Tell us a little bit about this. Break it off, if you will. Well,
so basically all you need is a computer and that has a USB port on it. So, this article I dug up, it's called TELEDILDONICS Gave Me the Gift of Long Distance Sex with a Stranger. And I was like, teledildonics. That's interesting. So this dude, this was found on Engadget, and this dude, Christopher Trout, he is the author, and I'm just gonna go ahead and read the opening paragraph. It's super short. On an otherwise normal Friday afternoon in late March, I found myself sitting on my bed, completely naked, in front of my laptop. It was a position I'd been in many times before, but today was different. I was getting ready for the most awkward tech demo of my career. So this guy goes on to talk about, basically he has been the go-to person, I guess, for Engadget, for technological advances in, like, I don't know, what would you call this? Just like the sex industry, or?
Broadly connectivity.
Yeah, true.
No, but absolutely.
So he's been like kind of the go-to guy, and I'm sorry, I keep getting hung up on this one sentence. He says, in an attempt to better understand the most intimate human-machine interactions, I've become a technosexual guinea pig, having cyber sex in sim-style virtual worlds, rigging toys to fuck myself like a Bluetooth Ouroboros, and
I don't know. I gotta hit the old Urban Dictionary for that one, man.
yeah, right. And hosting a dinner for the world's first sex robots.
So your Boros, I think. Hold on.
Okay.
Ouroboros.
Ouroboros.
Ouroboros,
Wow.
which is a circular symbol depicting a snake, or less commonly a dragon, swallowing its tail as an emblem of wholeness or infinity. One more time.
Ouroboros.
Anyway, so yeah, it just so this dude is a seasoned vet in the world of I guess open sexuality, which I actually got down into the comments of this article, and I'm pretty damn sure this brings a new light to the article, but pretty sure this guy is either bisexual or gay, which is weird. I mean, not being bisexual or gay, but like, it's weird that they would have this dude that, well, dude, he makes the comment, he's like, oh, I sat down and, to demo this device, and I realized that I hadn't had sex with a woman in more than 10 years, kind of thing.
So, sure. So he's adventurous. He parties.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So here we go.
So anyway, let's see. The business is Flirt for Free. Flirt, the number 4, and then free. Mm-hmm. They paired him up with this Colombian girl named Nazanin. Nazanin? I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. But, and so they were going to be showcasing this like connectivity of he had this thing called a fleshlight launch, which it was described as a giant motorized canister housing an anatomically correct silicone vagina. Which I feel like I would be fucking terrified to stick my dick into.
It's true. It's true. Unless you...
A giant motorized canister? It's like, what the fuck?
I mean, dude, if I did, well, I don't know. I might be down to do it. And if I did, this is what I'd yell.
Ouroboros.
Here I come, and then I'd go,
Ouroboros.
No, but I mean the giant motor. How big a motor you reckon this thing's got?
Dude, honestly, I think they said it was somewhere between 5 to 15 horsepower. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
You gotta crank it,
dude. Have you seen? Just a slide aside. Have you seen these memes where it's like a car salesman? It's like a guy and a car salesman, and it's like. The car salesman, it's like, it's like clip art, right? And the car salesman, there's like a guy sitting there with like his hand on his elbow, and he's like in the thinking man, standing thinking man position. Yeah. And there's like this other guy who's supposed to be a salesman. And the meme is, like, I'll give you an example. There was one about who's the guy that directed The Hobbit?
Peter Jackson.
Yeah, there's one about Peter Jackson, and it's like Peter Jackson slaps the top of the Lord of the Rings, and he goes, "This little baby, I can fit so many hobbits inside." And he's like, and then it's like leans in, and he's like, and if you go for it today, it says, it's like leans in, and he goes, I'll throw my manager's gonna hate this, but I'll throw in a tactical fanny pack. Anyway, my point is,
tactical fanny pack.
I could see a nice little meme with, slapping this Dick Gobbler 9000. What's it called?
It's a fleshlight launch.
Flashlight launch.
Yeah.
Launch.
But anyway,
okay.
and
anyway. Yeah.
So that's on the side of Mr. Trout. So, but with the Colombian.
So hold on. So I just want to get this straight, right?
Sure.
So he's on this website, and this is gonna be whatever he's gonna up the ante on camming, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Okay, so she's got some sort of device which you're gonna describe. he's got this device, and so it's supposed to be, like, I guess, trying to do their best to create the beast with two backs, remotely.
Well, so yeah. I mean, that's pretty much the long and the short of it. So
what's she on?
So she is on. Let's see. It's called the Kiiru Fuse, and it's apparently it's some kind of like vibrator that you can, like a double. They called it a two-pronged vibrator. So right. I guess it's for two orifices, two for the price of one.
I got you.
But anyway, so he's
got a little bit for everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Let's see. So anyway. So he makes that comment about, like, whatever, this is the first time in more than 10 years that he's gonna have had sex with a woman, and then he goes, what's more, I've got an audience. They basically had a PR dude that was not in the same room, but like on call kind of thing. And then also they had a team of IT people to work out the bugs and kinks for the devices and like connectivity, which apparently what ended up happening was, like, it took a, like, fucking hot minute to even get the shit synced up and stuff.
Okay.
So, but anyway, we'll hop back to this. They actually start to fill in the history of all this stuff. And basically this concept was developed before the internet was even fucking developed. Like,
yeah, I saw that, 1974.
Yeah, exactly. This dude, this technological theorist, Ted Nelson, who apparently he also is credited for coining the term dildonic to describe a sexualization of the sonic scimitar, which apparently was something that turned sound into tactile sensation. But anyway, dude, it's a fucking, like, trip to, like, read through this stuff in regards to, like, they would go on to say this dude in the late 90s, early 2000s came up with this thing that was a light sensor that attached to a user's computer screen with a suction cup, and then basically the device had an output for a sex sleeve or vibrator that a companion could control by remotely adjusting their partner's screen brightness and color.
Okay.
And I was like, dude, that sounds heady as fuck. You know, it's like, is this an acid dream while you're banging or what? Like, it's
yeah,
like, what does that mean?
Yeah, dude. I mean, so I think this is really interesting on like the kind of like the larger, like this onion has many layers, right? But at kind of the macro scale, it is kind of interesting, this, exploration in like in how people connect or whatever remotely. Like, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But man, son of a bitch, you can't help but feel that some of this shit is just like really underdeveloped and a little bit freaky. Like it's like the trough of disillusionment or something, in the sex toy realm.
Yeah, and the funny thing about technology is I feel like it's like when new tech is developed, I mean, obviously not all tech, but it's like I feel like one of the first questions that's asked is, can you fuck it? Kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's the dumbest shit ever, but like, I know in video games, all the fucking time when you're dealing with like one of the RPGs or something, it's like, well, so you've got this male protagonist, and then he's, comes across all these women over the course of the story, and everybody's like, well, so can you be romantically involved? It's like, sexuality is such a fucking deep-seated thing in humanity that it's just like, dude, it's like, all right, well, I'm not thirsty, I'm not hungry, so let's get to fucking.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's definitely an important part of of connectivity, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know that I was actually having this conversation with somebody literally last night, but I don't know that it's a I definitely don't think it's a bad thing at all, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like anything else, it just takes time for adoption and everything. That being said, I hear you, I guess, when you're saying like, on video games and different tech, and people are like, okay, cool, like, can we hop in here and we can fight and we have plasma cannons and can we fuck? Like, I definitely get that.
Yeah.
What I think is pretty interesting, and I would say that these are the true, explorers of just what's over the hill. Somebody that's just lining up and being like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll stick my dick in it. It's like, okay, all right. I don't know, man.
I mean, dude, there's a lot of lonely people out there, man.
Yeah, and well, so I was talking to somebody last night. This is actually as I mentioned, talking to somebody last night about this thing, and we were talking about the sex robot thing, which this seems to be an interesting topic because you and I covered this. I think it was last week on the sex robots. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is becoming a recurring theme.
Yeah, right. I think we're gonna change the podcast to dicks and stuff.
Yeah. Bang Bros. Oh wait, that's already taken.
Yeah, that's already. Yeah, that's right. But we were talking about this idea of whatever with sex robots. And I think it's applicable here, but the idea of connecting in that way, and like, is that a bad thing, and does it encourage or kind of mitigate against deviant behavior?
Yeah.
And when I say deviant behavior, I don't give a shit if you chain your lover up and they're like, swinging from their butt cheeks in your basement. Like, I don't give a shit. Nobody. That's
well,
not.
I mean, if both of them are
behavior.
into it, kind of shit, then
Yeah.
like,
I mean, that's like the big overarching point is right. You have to have like two consenting adults that are like into freaky shit. Awesome.
Yeah.
But when I say deviant behavior, I'm saying behavior that's kind of I think I mean is like bona fide as illegal behavior, has been like categorically kind of positioned as like illegal behavior that erodes society, like marrying a 12-year-old or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so that's I just think it's interesting because I think and I'm gonna definitely talk to some more people about this because I'd be interested in just taking kind of like a little straw poll, but as to whether or not people think that it would increase the chances of like deviant illegal behavior or decrease the chances of deviant illegal behavior. And the reason I say this in this context, have you ever heard of the term incel?
It sounds familiar, like INCELL.
Yeah,
or is it one?
INCEL, I believe. And let me make
it sounds familiar, but
right. Okay. So an incel is basically, let me see if I can get this kind of locked in. So it's like incel is short for involuntarily celibate.
Oh yeah. Because they were on No Agenda. They were talking about like these groups that basically were like women hating groups.
Yeah,
because
this is exactly what this shit is. Right?
Yeah.
So let me just read you this brief thing here. And again, I don't want to get too far off, but I think what's so interesting about teledildonics and sex robots and whatever is like it like this shit. It's weird, but it's gonna be really important in some way, and we just don't know how it's gonna be important. But incel is short for involuntarily celibate, a term originally coined in 1993 by a queer woman searching for a way to describe her sense of loneliness and to connect with others who felt the same way. The phrase has since been co-opted by an online community of men who are, in the simplest forms, angry that they can't convince women to have sex with them. Yeah. Unlike typical men who are irked they're not having sex, incels don't grouse to their friends over beers and try to pick up girls at bars. They talk about overthrowing feminism and often plot violence against women, including advocating for state-sanctioned rape on subreddits like what is this? Bra incels on 4chan and on various sites like incels.me. So
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, I think that this article, by the way, I just had to Google it quickly because this just popped up, obviously, during this conversation. This article's from Glamour. I'm sure there's some bullshit in there. Like, I don't know. I don't know if they're actually, like, state sanctioned rape. Seems a little extreme to me. But nevertheless, these are people who, like, feel completely socially ostracized for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I just bring that up. So what's your thought? Do you think that this type of shit, this type of technology, increases or decreases, the kind of possibility of, or increases or decreases the kind of, or would help increase or decrease the prevalence of like deviant, like crazy ass sexually?
So I'm going to give you a
behavior.
super fucking like cop out answer, but this is honestly what I think. I think that it would probably have both effects depending on the people that you know what I'm saying? Cuz it's like
one is like feeding the fire type thing.
Yeah, I mean one person may view that as like an outlet for sexual frustration and stuff, and then it's like, oh man, I had a tough day at work and I really just want to bang out, and like, so instead of going home and like
I had a tough day of work, I really want to bang out. What?
No, but you know what I'm saying?
Dude.
It's just like,
that sounds like the life of a tambourine right there.
No, but it's one of those things that I think that, I mean, dude, okay, for instance, do I think that there will be less rape victims in the United States because of the advancement of teledildonics? No, I don't. Because I think that the people that are, if you look at somebody and why they are committing rape in the first place, they're not going to get that stimulation that they get from raping someone from something like, from a device.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So it's
Sure.
like, no, it's not going to have any effect on something like that. But it's like, okay, you know how they normally say, oh, well, when a girl gets raped, normally it's by someone that they already know. Or
Right.
something like that. Well,
Right.
dude, maybe it would decrease those cases specifically, or something along those lines. It's like,
Right.
I'm just, postulating, but I think that it would have a negligible effect on deviant behavior, because I kind of view it the same as violence, similar to violence in video games, that it's like, yeah, dude, a violent video game could flip some switch in somebody's head and make them want to go shoot up something,
Right.
But at the same time, it could be, have a completely different effect for someone else, and it's like, that's the reason they didn't go shoot, up some whatever school or library or whatever,
Right.
I think it's one of those things that it would have an effect, but the effect would basically be negated on both sides, kind of thing.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, the story definitely, obviously, still remains to be told. So I think that, but I think it's really interesting, man. I can't help but believe that humanity is, pardon the pun, fucked for sure. I mean, these are like some weird times, but I mean, I'm totally down with it. I'm totally down.
Dude,
for
think about when Playboy came out in like what, the 50s?
Or even
like pinup girls and shit,
or even like call lines, right? Like sex lines.
I mean,
or
it's
something.
just like, dude, the world has been fucked since it existed.
Right. Well,
it's just we reside in this nice. It's like right above the collapse kind of thing.
Yeah, but the other side of it is that it's like, when this type of technology is new to you and new to like this generation and in this time and place.
Yeah.
It's somehow, I don't know, it seems more extreme. I mean, I remember reading this article years ago about a dude who was riding in the Tour de France, right? And he was like this was like a multi-page article in like 08 or something. And he's talking about like the death of cycling, because they were introducing, 3-geared bikes to, or it was like the death of like cycling as like a water, high water mark for, masculinity or something like this. Something that was very, of the era, because of the intro of 3 gears, right? And so it's like, I don't know. I mean, we can't, tell. We can't look in the future and tell, but it's some of this shit seems shocking, and then it's just crazy, but it's true that there will be some different advancement. What was that movie with Sylvester Stallone when he's like broken out of an ice block or some shit? Was that Judge Dredd when he's like,
what?
Wait, yeah, he's not Judge Dredd, excuse me, but he is like awakened from some slumber where he has been like, what the fuck is that movie? Where he's been like, he's been like in storage or whatever for like 100 years.
Are you sure it's Sylvester Stallone?
I think it's Sylvester Stallone. And then this chick is like, "Do you want to have sex?" And he's like, "Yeah, definitely I want to have sex." And then she hands him these goggles and he puts them on, and he's like watching it. These goggles, it's like this really futuristic way of having sex. He's like, "Can't we just do it the old-fashioned way?"
What?
Yeah, dude, hold on.
I do not remember this movie in the least. But I'm more than willing. I'll tell you what. You look that up, and I'm gonna come back to this article real quick.
Okay.
So anyway, he moves
Demolition
on.
Man. Demolition Man.
Oh my God! I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about how awesome that movie was.
Yes. Demolition Man, and it's
like
called
awesomely bad kind of thing.
Well, and what he says is, she's like, "Oh my God, no! They outlawed fluid transfers."
Nice.
Anyway, go ahead though.
No, so anyway, he basically just talks about like that they go through a bunch of shit to try to even get the stuff to work and connected to each other. I'm sorry, the author of the article, Trout, and this Colombian cam girl kind of thing. And so anyway, it basically ends up being they don't get anything going on at the actual demo thing. Well, so then he says 2 weeks later, I was back in my bedroom, sitting in front of my laptop, bare-assed and ready for another go. This time, though, I was free of anxiety, because he was talking about the first time that, he was, like, having performance anxiety because, basically he's being, like, monitored by, like, a team of people kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? I can kind of understand.
Yeah.
But,
we're losing him.
Yeah.
But, all right, but tighten that bad boy up and give me some more power on the motor.
Rev up those RPMs.
Oh my God.
But anyway, so he was like, but it was really weird how this article was written, because he's like, well, I never heard her voice. We communicated through text chat only. Her patience and seemingly sincere sweetness showed through in her body language and facial expressions. She greeted me with the sort of smile you reserve for old friends, like we'd formed a bond over our shared frustration the first time we met. Kind of interesting, but anyway, so he's like, after we kind of hit it off, blah blah blah. She grabbed a 2-pronged black silicone vibrator from a row of sex toys, which included a fleshy pink dildo and an assortment of butt plugs with fur tails, and casually gave it a stroke. I felt nothing at first, but as my fingers returned to the keyboard, the launch sprung into action.
Dude, you know what? Good for this dude. He's got a new rocket to ride for sure.
Yeah.
He's good.
But it was just he basically goes on to like be like, oh, it was actually pretty nice, but he basically was experiencing lag the whole time, so he could see what she would do in the cam, but then obviously it would, there was some kind of latency before the device actually reacted. So I mean, dude, my thing would be like, dude, get some gigabit, brother. Like,
Yeah,
come
man.
on.
Well, he's just gotta move to where they've got Google Fiber. He didn't do a network check. That's classic.
Exactly.
But okay, so it needs work.
Yeah.
So it needs work. So we'll continue to track this one and see what happens. And as there are teledildonic updates, we'll make sure and update everybody.
Yeah, right.
And we'll be your source for that. So you guys don't worry about it.
Yeah,
But,
seriously.
But okay, awesome. Well, shifting gears here just a little bit, and I don't think we can plan to see the launch pad or the Ramrod 5000 in these stores anytime soon. But let's switch to Apple. Apple and a recent court case that called into question the competitive nature of or the anti-competitive nature, I guess, rather. In Apple's App Store. So this is an interesting one. Everybody knows what the Apple App Store is.
And I'm kind of surprised that it took this long for this to kind of come about.
Well,
because I mean, it did seem. I mean, doesn't it seem kind of, well? But at the same time, I guess, you know, I mean, what's the difference between the Apple App Store and the Google Play, you know, store? Or something.
I would say the difference is that the lawsuit against the Apple App Store is further down the pipe, further down the track.
True.
So I think the thing that I really, really love about these types of articles and about this kind of general, I guess, sentiment in society right now is that, and we've talked about this a lot. I mean, I've been working in distributed tech for a while now, and blockchain based technology for, dang near 5 years, I guess, at this point. And it's really interesting because I came from the technical side, and so you get to see a lot of the kind of conversation and the way that companies are thinking about data and protecting data, and kind of the way that a distributed ledger changes this idea of competitive advantage. And I think that's what's really interesting about this is that companies kind of controlling the entire ecosystem, that's gonna be a thing of the past, man. And I just don't see any way around it, because if you think about it. And well, actually, let me read a little bit about the article before we drill too far down, so people have context, right?
Yeah.
So basically, there's a.
Hey, let me stop you right there, really quick. Look in your chat. Let me make sure that I'm doing this correctly. This article that I posted. There you go. So you should have gotten that one. That actually has a really good breakdown that we can just kind of go through piece by piece or whatever, that kind of outlines the lawsuit as to where it started, where it's kind of evolved to, and I thought it was very, very helpful.
Sure. Yeah, this is really good. This is really good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'll just kind of cherry pick a couple sentences out of here. But so the court case is Apple versus Pepper. And the way that they ruled was don't put pepper on your apple. That's
exactly. It's disgusting. Get a fucking culinary sense of taste.
Yeah. Like, get some class, you fucking hick, is what they said.
Apple versus pepper. Which one's better?
Yeah. Well, who would win, Apple or Pepper? And it's tough because the apple could roll on the pepper, but the pepper could totally cover the apple.
Exactly.
So the court case is called Apple versus Pepper. And it basically says, just cherry picking a couple sentences here, the court will decide whether iPhone users can sue Apple for locking down the iOS ecosystem, something the suit's plaintiffs say is creating an anti-competitive monopoly. Apple versus Pepper could theoretically affect how tech companies can build walled gardens around their products. This is super important because that is Apple's business model. Period.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Period. Is I mean, really
just this
kind of
heightened sense of proprietary.
Well, it's just like
like stuff.
Well, it's they get you locked into proprietary tech. You use that proprietary tech, and because you are used to using that proprietary tech, you continue to use it.
Yeah.
And so, like for me, I've been on Apple products for since 2000, maybe 2010 or 11.
Yeah.
And so now when I don't even know what the fuck exists in the PC ecosystem, like at all. I have no idea.
Yeah.
That's interesting because this is absolutely their business model. Get people locked in on the hardware and then just rake it in with software,
Well, yeah, because then you can set the price however you want. You don't have any competition. And if somebody wants to stick with Apple products, like normally a person that uses Apple stuff, does, it's like, fuck, man. They can write their own paychecks, kind of thing, you know?
Absolutely. And we'll kind of get into the evolution of that a little bit, but let me work through this just real quickly here, and then we can circle back on a couple of those points. So basically, a group of iPhone buyers are claiming that Apple's lockdown ecosystem artificially inflates the prices of apps because all developers must go through a single store that takes a cut of their revenue. Got it. How did we get here? Apple versus Pepper began as a broader antitrust complaint in 2011. Robert Pepper and 3 other iPhone owners claimed that Apple had stifled competition and driven up prices on its iPhone. Cool. Got it. What's the actual argument? The actual argument is that the complaint says that iPhone users have paid hundreds of millions of dollars for apps that would have been hundreds of millions of dollars more for apps than they would have paid in a competitive market. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but anyway.
Well, but that's the problem. Is there's no other option. If you want the app, you go through the App Store. Period.
Well, yes, absolutely. But I mean, these kind of posts go deep, right? I mean, they're because and when I'm saying posts, I guess I should use a different word, but these like pylons are driven deep into the bedrock of the system, right? Because if you want to develop in iOS, you're probably using Swift, right? If you're developing in the Android ecosystem, I think there are a variety of different languages that you can use because Android is, I believe Android is open source. I think it is. No, it definitely is. And so there are more options, right? But the iOS ecosystem is obviously huge. So then they say, but here's the thing: is Apple technically selling apps to users? Like that's the crux of the argument.
Yeah.
I guess the kind of counter would be, so scenario 1 is Apple selling these apps directly. Scenario 2, Joseph as a developer, if I create something and then put it in their marketplace, am I selling it through their marketplace and they're just facilitating this transaction, right? And so the Ninth Circuit Appeals Court disregarded Apple's arguments, like the fact that it's taking a commission from developers rather than adding a fee to user transactions, as hair splitting. It determined that regardless of who's making the apps or setting the exact prices, Apple is acting as a distributor, which gives it a direct relationship with its customers. Fuck yeah! I mean, I don't even know how that's. I do, because you can slice English in a trillion different ways. But,
yeah.
But so then it says, okay, what happens if Apple loses? So of course nothing yet. The Supreme this would of course go up to the Supreme Court. And if they uphold the Ninth Court's decision, it'll just send the case back down to a lower court, where the fight will keep going. So I would imagine that in this scenario, just to kind of double back in my mind, the way that things are changing. I don't think that these walled ecosystems are going to be around for much longer. And I guess I would say much longer within the context of 100 years or 50 years or whatever, right? I mean, we've only had the internet at scale for, I don't know, since the mid 90s, right? Probably.
Yeah, I would think.
So even the internet, even the method that people are using to connect and use these apps is really, really young. And so this type of ecosystem, I would say that this kind of legislation probably just hadn't come down yet because people just didn't understand it. They just didn't know, they just didn't understand actually what's going on here. But I mean, there's no way. I mean, there's, as it stands, it's kind of a dead heat between Apple and Amazon as to which organization is going to be the first $1 trillion company, right? So is
Google not in the running for that?
I don't think so. I mean, I think in the running, sure, but I think there's still just a little bit further, which honestly, man, we should devote like an entire episode into like traversing the Amazon ecosystem, because it's just unbelievable how much that organization touches. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you know, they say like 99% of the things that you touch on a daily basis have gone through, you know, like a shipping container, right?
Yeah.
And that is, and just, you know, that's kind of well, shit, it's not even the analog anymore, because these guys are like, you know, owning, you know,
well, yeah,
logistics.
Aren't they looking into like a logistics
they already
expansion kind of thing?
They already own airplanes. They already own, I say they own airplanes. They have an arm that, you know, that flies packages around. And then they definitely have an arm of subcontractors that do like the Amazon.
I wonder if they get tired much.
Well,
with all that arm flapping.
Yeah, this is a big arm. This is a big arm that is hell bent on bitch slapping court cases like this, I would say. But anyway, I mean, Apple's going to fight this, you know, into eternity for sure. But what's interesting is I think that these distributed types of architecture, like there's a term called DApp, a decentralized application, where the logic of the application actually lives in the network. It's not hosted in a centralized database. And so, I mean, this is very, 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 very nascent technology, but through a series of smart contracts, you could basically set up, you know, like a kind of series of business logic, right? Like a series of logical steps, and then the sum of those logical steps would result in, you know, basically what a business does, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, with the development of that tech, I think you're going to see these kind of walled gardens break down. But dude, there's no way. I mean, like, I just don't see if you're, I don't know. I mean, I understand that maybe it is kind of the goal of the government or whatever certain parts of the government to protect consumers. But at the same time, man, it's like, you know, Apple has built this network and it's become very popular, and it's like the kind of free market, you know, dude in me says like, fuck it, it is what it is. Until somebody develops something that's better, like, if they want.
I guess the question kind of is, well, and I'm assuming that's what they're getting at with all the antitrust, like monopolistic stuff, is that it's like once something grows to a certain size, can a competitor actually be viable, kind of thing? Which is that not kind of the gist of what they're getting at? That it's like, oh well, it is, and I would say it is absolutely the gist that they're getting at. But I'd say, I guess my response to that would be that are like in the old paradigm where there wasn't any other way to engage a company other than through this kind of walled garden. I would totally agree with you. But man, I'm telling you, a direct competitor to the Apple App Store is Ethereum, 100%. Now it's a baby blockchain, you know. I mean, it's actually a fairly large enterprise, but it's not. The technology's nascent, it can't scale, and because it can't scale, you can't get the throughput that you need to do, you know, like, you know, to pass through a shitload of transactions. Therefore, you can't support these contracts, which means you know, smart contracts, which means you can't support distributed logic, which means you can't have distributed apps at scale, right? Yeah.
But
so is Ethereum's big like hold up? Because I know that I remember, and this is kind of a tangent, but like, when you were setting up the Bitcoin wallet, and we were waiting for the transaction to go through, and you were saying that it was like however many, you know, transactions every minute or something. It was like 10 transactions a minute or something like that.
So it's,
I mean, I was, you know.
Yeah, so the Bitcoin blockchain is actually much slower than, well, actually, I don't know if that would be right because they both use the same consensus mechanism at current. But basically, yeah, I guess to all that is to say that yes, you are correct. Like these structures are very, very slow, but philosophically, what distributed data structures like that do are truly disintermediate a group like Apple who says, no, fuck you, you got to pay what we say to pay you, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting to me because, again, I think philosophically, you know, if you've put the legwork in as a developer, I think there's absolutely value that Apple adds. Of course, right? Because there are millions and millions of people that can take a look at your product and purchase your product and whatever, and your product's not worth shit if no one's buying it. Got it. I just don't know if that's necessarily worth the lion's share. Necessarily, right? In some cases. And so I don't know what their kind of commission or what their format is, their comp format is in this ecosystem. But I mean, you know, if you're the one that builds like this, you know, whatever Flappy Bird 9 or whatever, and people are into it, I definitely think that you should be, you know, the one that benefits. You're the one that put the legwork in and whatever. And they should definitely get a rip for distribution, but it's just distribution. So I guess all this is to say, dude, this is a really interesting court case because it's being taken seriously, but I just don't see a way around, you know, Apple maintaining this white knuckle death grip on this in the near future. It's not going to go away. I don't give a shit what the court case is.
Yeah,
you know, there's too much money. There's too much money at stake. It's not gonna happen.
True.
So,
but
okay.
Well,
super interesting. So here's the other thing though, right? Now we're going from Apple to another hardware device, right? Mm-hmm. And so what's the story here, dude, with this hardware device and what is it up to? How are these tech companies getting their tentacles deeper in our pockets?
Yeah. So basically, this next one, funny that we were talking about Apple compared to Amazon because this next article has the spotlight directly on Amazon and specifically Alexa. And so Alexa, for anyone out there that I guess has been living under a rock for the past couple of years, Alexa is the AI that finds its home in the smart speakers that Amazon puts out. So the Amazon Echo and the Amazon Dot. So basically, Amazon is trying to up the ante on hospitality in or for hotel chains, and so they've launched a new service specifically for hotel chains, and it's called Alexa for Hospitality. And so basically what this does...
God, what a nightmare, dude.
I'm telling you, if I got to a hotel and it had one of those fucking speakers in my room, I would literally unplug it and put it in the fucking hall. Like, I don't own one at my home. I don't want to be around one. I don't like the fact that it's always listening and you don't know whether or not it's recording kind of thing. It's just, you know, it's not that I'm involved in a shit ton of deviant behavior. I just enjoy having privacy. So, but anyway, so.
And the end game on those things is scary as shit.
Well, I mean, dude, you know, it's like we talked about previously that it's like, okay, well, you know, something is given to you for free. Well, if it's not clear what, you know, is actually what you're giving up for it, then you are the basically
you're the product.
You're the product. Yes.
You're the product.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, I can only imagine. I mean, with all these articles that have come about these smart speakers and like our phones listening and all this jazz. It's like, okay, so you ask Alexa, you know, basically it turns Alexa into the concierge, you know, for the hotel.
Right.
And, so real quick, So apparently they're starting in with Marriott International Properties. This includes Marriott Hotels, Westin Hotels and Resorts, St. Regis Hotels and Resorts, Aloft Hotels, and Autograph Collection Hotels. And it says this summer. So apparently, I mean, this article was written mid June. So I mean, I'm assuming this is currently being rolled out, kind of thing. Man, I just can't get behind this in the least.
Yeah, I think it is no way it lasts. Absolutely no way it lasts. I mean, it is well, gosh, as soon as I said that, I just thought about how ridiculous that sounded. I don't know.
But dude, that's the thing is, like, you look around at everybody and how much it's so great to have, whatever, your Google AI kind of thing, or let me talk to Siri for, half my day, planning meetings and looking for restaurants and looking for gas stations. I don't know, whatever people ask to Siri. But, man, it's one of these things that I don't see how it could be widely accepted, kind of thing. I mean,
So how many people do you know that have Alexas?
You mean like the Echoes and Dots?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yes, the Echoes and Dots.
So, to be honest with you, man, I mean, I think that my friends kind of are an exception to the rule because dude, we don't fit the mold for, like, the stereotypical millennial, even though we're in that, lumped in with that generation kind of thing. And I feel like millennials are the ones that not only not only want more tech, but they rely on it more. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I've surrounded myself with people, not that they're like Luddites or anything, but like just with people.
I mean, I would actually say that your friends are very technically savvy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, we play, lots of video game stuff and mess around with, computers and jazz like that. But, like, in regards to, like, the AI, I guess, tech, I don't think any of my friends are on board. Which is, or at least I'm pretty sure that none of them have those devices. To answer your question, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy is when we talked about this, I think in one of the past episodes, but they don't even know that if they have it, right? If you have a cell phone.
Oh, if you have a smartphone. Yeah, if you have a smartphone and you've, in my opinion, I don't even think that, they say, you have to give it, permission to use your microphone and stuff. Dude, I can guarantee you it's hidden in the terms and conditions of either Apple or one app, like, hell, fucking Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, or just something that is, like, basically ubiquitous to smartphones, because the vast majority of people have those kinds of social media accounts. I can guarantee you that shit's on there. So, Facebook may not be getting your information, but Twitter is, or Instagram is, or those three aren't, but it's like, whatever, Amazon's getting it somehow, kind of thing. It's just one of those situations of, I don't even think, I think permission does have to be given, but I think it's also hidden way the fuck, buried down in the semantics of, the terms and conditions. So, but
yeah, I just think that as far as, just to kind of circle back on the hotel rollout.
Yeah.
I tend to think that psychologically people are mostly in a different place when they're traveling like that. And I think that people would be more apt to use it in a hotel room than in their home.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I think that, like, I mean, come on, man. These companies, very smart people run these companies. And not just the tech companies. Very smart people run Marriott. Very smart people run Hilton. I mean, I don't believe for a second that these are idiots, right?
Well, I mean, there's a reason they're thriving businesses, you know?
Right. Well, right. And so psychologically, I think people are absolutely more willing to do things in hotel rooms broadly that they're not going to do, you know, in their home, right? And that's pay $9 for a Sprite or, you know, I'm sure behavior changes. And so, no doubt. And so then if you map that over to like, okay, would somebody be more willing to like adopt this? It's really interesting because then if you look at it from the kind of data science side, you know, depending on how much you travel a year, dude, I can get if I can just get a little bit of information about, you know, what you're doing and kind of what you're eating there and how you're behaving and whatever, I can probably work my way back into some of the behavior that you exhibit at home, and I can probably still market.
Dude,
you know,
but that's the thing. That's the thing. A little bit further into this article, it says, in the future, Amazon says guests will be able to connect their Amazon accounts to the in-room Echo device, granting them access.
What is so fucking crazy is that people are like, wow, that sounds awesome. That is what's crazy.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Your mind, like, literally, feudalism is fucking back. And this is what it looks like. You are the field that is being like hoed and harvested.
Yeah.
I mean, it is crazy.
I mean, it's just,
and people are just like,
it's bizarre.
People are like, well, I mean, I do like polo, and they tell me about polo, so I guess it's worth it.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever, man. It's fucking crazy, man.
It's just absolutely
okay.
bizarre.
So I give that a big thumbs down. Not stoked on that, and I'm gonna be looking under my bed next time, not for monsters, but for Alexa.
Yeah, exactly. All right,
Crazy,
so yeah, fuck Alexa. Moving on, moving on from Alexa, and this one's just going to be a real quick one because we are rounding the hour mark, or at least close to. So I don't know about you, but I have definitely had like a nightmare of basically like being buried alive kind of thing, you know, or people don't know that you're dead or that you're alive, but you appear dead kind of thing. Well, there was a lady in in South Africa that basically lived this out to an extent. She was in
when was this?
This was June 24th.
Okay.
So she was badly injured in a car wreck near Johannesburg on the 24th, and the ambulance crew shows up, and they basically said that she had very extensive injuries and practically showed, quote, no form of life, end quote. So, so basically the paramedics followed, you know, all their protocols and all that jazz. Couldn't find a pulse, no signs of breathing. They decided that she was dead and, you know, called the mortuary. They came and picked her up. Days later, a morgue worker who was loading the bodies into the fridges came to the chilling realization that the woman who was earlier pronounced dead was alive and breathing. So they have the person quoted, when he pulled out the woman's body, he saw that she was breathing. She was moved from the morgue to the hospital, and basically they decided to launch an investigation to figure out, like, how the fuck this happened, kind of thing.
Dude.
That is just outrageous, dude. In my opinion, like, that is just, I mean, that's terrifying. That's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I mean, that's just, dude, just from a...
Buying fucking time.
That was my spooky voice. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And I mean, goddamn, can you imagine? It's like you're just cruising through the hills of South Africa and you plow into a fucking gazelle, and the next thing you know, you wake up 4 days later, freezing your balls off in the freezer. You're just like, holy shit, man! Yeah. I thought I was going to get a quart of milk. I don't know what you said. That's totally crazy. So did she recover? Did she make a recovery? A full recovery? No way.
They don't have a follow up on it, but I mean, if they've moved her back to the hospital, they at least expect to be able to treat her. You know.
Okay. So we chatted about this early, and I guess just to wrap up the episode, let's include like a little fun fact. So for the listeners, Daniel, excuse me, I'd like for you to connect Zach Morris and I'd like for you to connect Zach Morris and being buried alive. Could you do that for us just real quickly?
Yeah. So, we were talking about it earlier about this article when we were going over articles to cover on the cast. And so the Zach Morris was the main dude from the show Saved by the Bell.
Time out.
What?
Time out.
I'm
kidding, man. That was the Zach Morris thing. When the shit got hairy, he called time out.
And everything would stop. Yeah. I forgot about that shit. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. We were looking up safety coffins, is that right?
Uh-huh.
And so apparently with safety coffins, if people didn't believe that loved ones were actually dead, they would rig these coffins so that there would be a bell above the ground that would be tied to a string and somehow run underground through maybe a pipe or something, I guess, to the person in the coffin, so that if they happened to wake up, then they could ring the bell to be exhumed. And they actually think that the phrase "Saved by the Bell" came from that. Which is fucking bizarre.
Zach Morris is connected to being buried alive. Oh,
so
man.
Fucking weird.
Oh man, if you get that in Trivial Pursuit, ladies and gentlemen, please give us credit. Give us credit on that.
There you go, man. So. There you go. But anyway, so man. So I think that probably concludes this this beautiful episode of the Tether Radio podcast. Yeah, I mean, what do you got going on this week, dude? You got anything,
dude,
big?
Yeah, just working on just a couple of projects. Hope to be pushing a little bit of code later in the week. And then I have a couple of writing projects that I'm working on for some posts for in service of building the blockchain cult. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Word. Well, man, I'd say I think Megan and I have a pretty light week this week. Also, happy early 4th of July to everyone out there. Go celebrate the independence of the United States of America with whoever the hell you want to fucking celebrate it with, I guess. So.
Do it up, man. Yeah. Do it up. Cool. Hey, well, dude, thank you. As always, Daniel, for the inspiring conversation, and you want to walk us out the door here?
Here we go, man. Thank you guys again for listening to Tether Radio Podcast. This is the only podcast keeping you from spinning out into the infinite abyss. I'm Daniel Bradley.
And I'm Joseph.
And, man, stay spacey, friendos, and join us next time.